Name a character in a TV series who you initially disliked. What was the exact moment you began to appreciate them and why? Hank from Breaking Bad. When he was first introduced, he was a barbecue having chest thumping machismo Neanderthal that I absolutely hate. I can't remember the exact moment my opinion of him changed, either when we saw the complex relationship he had with his wife and her kleptomania, or when he began suffering from PTSD and tossed his paperweight bullet in the river, but he quickly became my favorite character and the only character with any redeeming qualities in the entire show. I love a good white hat. The Hound from Game of Thrones. He was one of those characters you just despised for the first couple seasons, and unlike most of the other characters who decide to go with the cliche, I changed my ways and I'm a good person now. After the whole expedition with Arya, you could start seeing why he acts the way he does, and although still not an ethical person, after seeing how he acted in the later seasons, I gained a new appreciation for him. To find the exact moment, I'd need to rewatch the series, but I freaking loathed Pete Campbell or Mad Men. And I don't even mean when you love to hate them. I just didn't like the character being on screen at all. But somewhere along the way he became my favorite character. I am gonna guess it started happening after he tried to blow up Don's game to Bertram and Bertram was like, so what? Pete changed forever right there. Pete and Trudy dancing at Roger's party made him a legend to me. For me, it's Scar from Full Metal Alchemist. You begin thinking he's just a relentless antagonist with no mercy. 3/4 of the way through the show, the flashbacks of him watching his brother become obsessed and mentally poisoned over bringing his wife back through the dead through forbidden alchemy, eventually giving up his life to save Scar. This event, coupled with the military occupation of his homeland, makes you understand his wish to rid his homeland of the occupation army and the alchemy they used to conduct attacks and war crimes. However, when he gives his own life to save Al, we see the flashback of Scar's brother sacrificing his own life. And at that point, I realized Scar might be the only character who truly understands the brother bond that Ed and Al share, and by seeing that, he sacrifices himself to save Al. Orange is the New Black. Big Boo. She seemed like a dong at first, but when she became friends with Pensataki and helped her through her RP, you saw a different side. Also when they explained her backstory and issues with her mom. I would say Jesse from Breaking Bad. At first I was really annoyed with the gangster white guy personality, but it just grows on you and now I love it. I'm not sure what the exact moment is, but I think it's really just from watching the character develop so much over the series. You can't help but root for Jesse by the later seasons. Giles from Buffy. Season 1 Giles was strict, boring, and said nothing fun. By the time they introduce Wesley in season 3 and Wesley acts just like Giles in season 1, you can see how far he's come. Captain Picard. I was 10 when Star Trek: The Next Generation first came on, and I immediately caught on with Data and Commander Riker, and I thought Picard was a grumpy old man. It wasn't one moment that turned me around, but all the little moments you see of his character growing on you. Patrick Stewart really did a marvelous job with his character. Who knew that by the end of the series I would identify far more with Picard than all the other characters in TNG. Crixus from Spartacus. The first season he's in, but up until the last couple of episodes when he finally decides to join in the rebellion. But then they did a prequel season when you find out his backstory, and then rewatching the first season you get why he is the way he is and you root for him and get anxious as those final moments approach before they kill them all. Kelso from Scrubs. I think it started changing in the episode he calls his wife Bunny, my Tuscaloosa heart. Mr. Peanut Butter from BoJack. At first I just thought he was a shallow sitcom actor Hollywood type, but at the end of season 1 and through season 2 his character really develops and he became one of my favorite characters. Specifically what did it for me was the scene where he tells Diane that life isn't about a constant struggle for meaning, it's about keeping yourself busy with an important bulls and then one day you'll be dead. Not only is this scene a great use of dark humor, but it shows that Mr. PB knows exactly who he is and how to try and be happy. The other scene was at the beginning of season 2 when he comes to make plans with BoJack after BoJack started being nice to him, and the BoJack yells at him and calls him an idiot, and there's a short moment where Mr. PB chews on his arm and beats himself up about it. That scene breaks my heart. It shows how much Mr. PB tries to be BoJack's friend and how hard he takes it when BoJack is mean to him. Chris Traeger from P&R. Don't know why, but I could not stand him at first. I think after he and Anne started dating I started liking him more until the charm and charisma of Rob Lowe eventually swept me off my feet. Mickey from Doctor Who. Such a worthless throwaway boyfriend, always getting in the way of Rose and the Doctor. Then they go to the alternate timeline and he very courageously breaks from the Doctor and Rose and finds his grandma. I gained a huge amount of respect for him going forward. He had a complete story arch from useless without Rose Mickey to planet saving Cyberman killing Mickey the hero who marries a badass from Unit. I originally hated Misa Amain from Death Note. She annoyed the crap out of me. Then one day, I realized, Misa, for all of her flaws, is brilliant. She only comes across as empty-headed because she's being juxtaposed with Light and L. In any other series, though, Misa would be scary as frick. Like, here's an example. She convinces Higuchi that she's the second Kira, despite not actually being Kira at the time. Despite not having a death note. Despite having to prove it in front of him in a cramped car. She used what little Rem had told her to convince Higuchi, then communicate by implication to Rem that she wanted Rem to do the killing, and thus set up the entire sting operation that took down Higuchi and brought Light back as Kira. This was after she used a nurse costume to escape from L's surveillance. Like, next to the crap that Light and L and friends pull off on a regular basis, it doesn't seem like much. But Misa Amain is a force to be reckoned with all the same, and that is something I could appreciate about her. Rodney McKay, Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis. I started to like him in Atlantis when the character was fleshed out a bit beyond egotistical smart guy misogynist. He would still freak out and be cowardly, but managed to work through his own terror to pull some amazing solution out of his butt. He started to respect women, at least as much as he did anyone else, and even managed to have a relationship. Carol from The Walking Dead. I'm struggling to think of the exact moment, but when she first showed up, she was the crying abused housewife and not that interesting of a character. Now, she's been destroyed and rebuilt herself as one of the strongest and most dangerous people on the show. Her arch has been remarkable. Tracy Jordan in 30 Rock. He seemed okay at best in the initial episodes, but he just gets better with every season episode. He could probably win every stupidity contest there is. Red Foreman. In the first season I hated the way that he treated Eric, but in the episode in the middle of the first season where Ed's mom died I just felt sorry for him and all the pressure he was under to provide for his family. Every character from Lost after each one of their flashbacks. Bellamy Blake in The 100, acting like a complete shat in the first season, but starts to get more likable in the second one. My opinion changed completely after he decided to put his life on the line to get his friends out of Mount Weather. Cordelia Chase from Buffy, the episode when Buffy could read minds, and you find out that Cordelia is a straight shooter, and says exactly what's on her mind. She's been my favorite character from the Buffy universe ever since. I'd say Michael from The Office, because he was too cringy for me at first. Also he was a prick, but the more I watched him I saw good of a guy he was. I think one of his best moments comes when Pam had that art show and he's the only one that shows up. Still makes me tear up a bit. Andy from Parks and Recreation. In the first season he came across as just another poorly written dumb guy character like Lowell from Wings, but in the later seasons, particularly when he started the shoe shine stand and was dating April, he became a funny, lovable, cleverly written dumb guy character, like Kramer. Cancer Man in The X-Files, when they did the flashbacks of his youth really gave some background of why he does the things he does. I actually felt a bit bad for him when he tried to get his stories published and quit smoking. Dwight K. Schrute from The Office US version. At the start I thought he was just way too weird to make it realistic, but he grew on me as he was the main comedian. Gaius Baltar from Battlestar Galactica. I absolutely hated him and how weak-willed he was. He was the perfect example of how villains don't see themselves as villains. I didn't really love him until he was arrested and held in detention and started writing his manifesto. At that point I stepped back and realized just how much the dude had been through and how many impossible situations he had been placed in. I had the same reaction, only it really came at his trial when Lee's up there defending him. I realized that while he was kind of a dong and arrogant, he wasn't really evil. He was necessary. The Ice King from Adventure Time. Initially I hated him. I didn't even find him funny. Then I watched the episodes about his backstory, and now he's my favorite character in the entire show. I don't think I've ever cried that much over a cartoon. The I Remember You episode is my favorite in the series. It is such an emotional roller coaster. Kara Thrace from Battlestar Galactica. She just seemed like such an obnoxious know-it-all. It wasn't until the episode where we saw a lot more of her background, interaction with her mother, etc., that I saw her more sympathetically and understood better. I still don't like what she did to Lee, though. Squidward. I don't know the exact moment, but I know you either die a child or live long enough to like Squidward. Yeah, when you're a kid you think he is the grumpy boring guy, but now I can really understand him. Obviously he hates his job, he works at a freaking burger joint for minimum wage and has 2 annoying neighbors who break his crap all the time. AMD never gives him some rest. He just want to play his clarinet. Q. At first he was just a jerk trying to interfere, wanting to put humanity on trial or come up with any other excuse to dress in 20th century garb. But eventually I just liked him. He was goofy, did interesting things to the stories and lives of the crew of the Enterprise, and ultimately ended up exciting to watch. Love the one where he gave Riker powers of the continuum, and watching him trying to explain hunger or sleeping after being stripped of his powers. That was just great writing and acting. I love the theory that he's a jerk on purpose, because if he was as altruistic as Picard then progress in the universe would stop. With him being flighty and uncaring they can't just say oh no a plague. Cool Q. Oh no the Borg are attacking again. Cool Q. Oh, one of our ships got thrown into the Delta Quadrant. Get Q on that. Ziggy from The Wire. Couldn't stand him at first, but as the season went on I started to feel for him. It was probably the moment when he was left on top of the containers at work that it kicked in. He is your classic ADD case. Attention seeker and gets bullied all the time. We all know a guy like that. They may be obnoxious at times, but inside they are just struggling so hard to fit in, but never seem to make it. Nathan from Misfits. At the beginning he comes off as a huge butthole, hurting the others at every possible moment. Later on you realize that he is really sensitive and hides it behind his butthole personality, and once everyone understands this his jokes are really good. Lois from Malcolm in the Middle. Watched the show as a kid and always thought that Lois was too much of a controlling mom that enjoyed punishing her kids. Then I watched the show later as an adult and now I understand why Lois was so controlling. Those kids were out of control. Orphan Black has a ton of these. Allison shows up and just seems super boring, but then you see her do these insane impulsive things. Glue gun and how much she loves her family. Helena, always insane, but as she gets more involved with the other characters you start to feel sort of affectionate and protective of her, even when she's being murderous. Seriously, Tatiana Maslany deserves just all the rewards for that show. She's so good as each character. Boyd Crowder from Justified. He started off as this boring white supremacist caricature but slowly turned into this brilliant and caring, at least for Ava, sort of anti-hero. I always loved listening to him talk. First I hated the Big Show, but then he did something really good, so I liked him. But then he did something dastardly, so I hated him. But then he was good again, but then bad, but then a good guy, and immediately a bad guy. This goes on for another like 40 times. I don't know if I love him or hate him anymore. Toying with emotions as a perk of his ironclad contract. I hated Morty first, Rick and Morty, for being a whiny little crap. But then he kinda grew on me and I realized that's literally every kid in existence, very accurately represented. Sansa Stark. In the final episode of season 1 she quite quickly came to realize how blind she had been to the system of government and the corruption and violence that holds Westeros together. When she says to Joffrey, "Or he could give me yours," after Joffrey tells her that he could kill Robb, that's when I began to appreciate her. Before then she had been an innocent and naive young teenage girl who fancied a handsome young prince and was preoccupied with fairy tales and legends of noble knights. How anyone can blame a 14-year-old girl for being so idealistic and blind is beyond me. Yes, she was dumb and very bratty and immature, more so than some girls of her age. But this is definitely not unheard of. She quickly learns to use her words to play the game and survive. Purling Ilaria in that context might have been cooler to the audience, but she knew it was an automatic death sentence. I always loved her character because she is like a Disney princess in the real world. You have been visited by the Good Sleep Pizza. You will be blessed with cozy sleeps, but only if you upvote before going to sleep. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.